Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and good day everyone. I, Dr. Sadia Atta, welcome you all on board. Yesterday we discussed about the orthodontic correction of the anterior open bite, in which we discussed the habit breaking appliances and various other modalities of treatment that we are going to discuss today. So, in the habit breaking appliances, we talked about the reminder appliances that are simple acrylic appliances that can be added as a reminder to the patient and to those patients who are willing to leave the habit. These are very simple appliances consisting just of a label bow and Adams, and these are removable appliances. So there are various other habit breaking appliances as well, and they're just categorized according to their shape and the nature of the habit that is there. So here we can see multiple appliances. These type of habit breaking appliances are usually having a crib, the tongue crib, and these type of habit breaking appliances are usually having a cage, as we can see here. They are usually having a cage. So these are all tongue. These are tongue cages. These are tongue cribs. These are tongue cages, and this appliance is having an acrylic bead in the center. So there are various types of habit breaking appliances depending upon the nature of the habit. So when these habit breaking appliances are fixed, these are fixed appliances, are fixed to the molars, as you can see here with the help of bands. The patient cannot put the thumb here in the anterior palate. Therefore, it will leads to the habit breaking, and it will lead to the correction of the anterior open bite. In cases where the tongue thrust is the major cause of the anterior open bite, in those cases the tongue cages are given, which doesn't allow the tongue to come forward and lie in between the incisors, or where the patient is going to place or put a thumb here in the anterior palate, the acrylic bead can be given to discontinue the appliance. So these are the various types of habit breaking appliances. In addition to this simple removable appliance, these are the fixed habit breaking appliances: tongue cribs, tongue cages, and the acrylic appliance with a bead. So there's a little video which shows us about habit breaking appliances. As we can see that there is an anterior open bite. We're gonna put two bands which will be fixed on the molars, and a tongue cage is given. Now it is not allowing the tongue to come forward. What will happen, because of the extra oral lip pressure, the anterior open bite will close itself. Now the second modality in which due to which we can correct the anterior open bite is the intrusion of the molar. Usually, intrusion of the molars is considered a more stable modality for the correction of anterior open bite as compared to extrusion of the incisors. So, the treatment should always aimed as intrusion of molars whenever possible, or at least to control the vertical dimension of the molars. What it will do is, when we are going to intrude the molars, it will allow the mandible to come forward, upward and forward, and it will correct the anterior open bite. Here, as we can see, this is a patient with anterior open bite, a long face. In this case, we want the mandible to come upward and forward. What will happen is the lower third of the face will be reduced, the interocclusal dimension will be reduced, and it will help in correction of the anterior open bite. Now, what are the various methods of intruding the molars? There are 5 major methods for the intrusion of molars. Number 1, we can use the high pull headgear. I'll be discussing all of these methods one by one. We can use a high pull headgear. We can use a fixed appliance mechanics through which we are going to intrude the molars. We can give a buccal cap or a splint over the molars. Repelling magnets can be used, and tats can be used. So when we are talking about the intrusion of the molars, as the long facial pattern, the increase in the lower dimension, all are the describing factors. There's a one major determinant factor which on the basis of which we are going to intrude the molars and not to extrude the incisors. And that is the smile arc. As we can see here, when the patient is smiling, there is a complete incisal show on smile along with some of the gingival show, which is the feature of an ideal smile. We can see a complete incisal show, we can see some amount of gingival show. If we are going to extrude these incisors, instead of intruding the molars, what will happen is there will be an increased in the gummy smile, there will be non-consonant establishment of a non-consonant smile arc. And when we discussed about the smile aesthetics, we talked about it that smile arc is one of the major contributing factor towards the facial aesthetics. So what it will do, it will lead to an unaesthetic facial profile. So whenever you are going to plan any orthodontic treatment, you are going to see that whether the amount of incisal show on smile is increased, decreased, or it is normal, and on the basis of that we are going to plan for the molar intrusion or the incisor extrusion. So in cases where we can see a full incisal show on smile, in those cases we'll definitely not be going for the incisor extrusion, which is a less stable movement as compared to the intrusion of the molars. So we discussed the various treatment modalities on the basis of which we can intrude the molars. Now I'll be discussing them one by one. So the intrusion of the molars may be performed with the help of a headgear. What a headgear does is it provides a vertical distal directed force, and as can be seen here in the picture, and the inner bow of the headgear, it is attached to the molars. The inner bow of the headgear is attached to the molars. So when it is provided, if the vector of the force is put in such a way that it is passing above the center of resistance of the molar, it will cause a molar intrusion. So therefore, when the molar intrusion will be there, definitely a correction of the anterior open bite will happen with the help of a headgear, and it will also control the vertical dimension of the face. Whereas in cases of severe class 2 with anterior open bite, a functional appliance with a headgear can be added, which also leads to the correction of anterior open bite. Then we talked about that posterior bite blocks may be used for the correction of an anterior open bite. How they cause the correction of an anterior open bite? For example, if we are providing posterior bite blocks, as we can see here, acrylic blocks on the lower teeth, then some amount of splint or a capping is provided in the upper teeth as well, so that they may not abrade because of this acrylic. So when these posterior teeth, they come in contact with the bite block, there is an intrusive apical force on these tooth that will lead to the intrusion of the posterior teeth. And when the posterior teeth will intrude, they will cause the mandible to move upward and forward, that will close the anterior open bite. As we can see here, the patient is having contact on molars only. When the patient is closing, the bite blocks are placed and the upper acrylic capping or small splints are given so that the upper teeth may not abrade as well. These are the acrylic cappings that are being provided to the upper teeth. So when the patient brings the mouth in occlusion, what happens is there is an intrusive force on the molar that will lead to the intrusion of the molar. Now the second molar is coming in contact. Now two molars are coming in contact, and when the patient will bite on the block, both of them will be intruded, which cause the upward and forward movement of the mandible. When the blocks are removed, this leads to the correction of the anterior open bite, as can be seen here in the video. So the upper caps are removed as well. This is how intrusion of the molar corrects the anterior open bite. This is by intrusion of molars. Okay, now another modality of treatment that can be used is the repelling magnets for intrusion of molar. What happens is repelling magnets can be used in many ways. This modality of treatment is usually not used these days, and it is some sort of a conventional modality, but still the repelling magnets, the two bite blocks are attached, one in the maxilla, over here, and one in the mandible, and the repelling magnets are placed in them, one in mandible and in maxilla. So when the patient brings the mouth together, though there is an intrusive force that is provided by these magnets, because these magnets, they try to repel each other. Therefore an intrusive apical force is provided to the molars, both upper and the lower, which causes the intrusion of the molars, and therefore the anterior open bite is corrected in that way. Now coming and talking about the skeletal anchorage devices, or the TADs, which are also known as the temporary anchorage devices. They have expanded the envelope in terms of severity of correction of the anterior open bite, which means that even more severe open bites can be treated with the help of temporary anchorage devices, because they are taking skeletal support. So there, when we are using a temporary anchorage devices for molar intrusion, these first of all you need to look at the temporary. These are the temporary anchorage devices. These are mini screws. From these mini screws, the intrusive force is provided, which leads to the intrusion of the molars. When we are using a temporary anchorage device and they are only placed buccal or palatal, they cause the tipping of the molar in those direction. Therefore it is always advised for intrusion that both the buccal, these are the buccal, and the palatal implants should be placed. Therefore if both the intrusive forces are taken from the palate and the buccal aspect, it will cause a bodily intrusion of the molar instead of tipping the molar to one direction, either palatally or buccally. And when we are using the temporary anchorage devices, the relapse that is there is maximum in the first year following the intrusion. Therefore it is always suggested that active retention should be advocated in the first year after the use of the TADs or the temporary anchorage devices, which will lead to the which will definitely decrease the amount of relapse. What I mean to say over here is that by using the TADs or the temporary anchorage devices, we can attain greater amount of molar intrusion as compared to other devices, because they are taking support from the skeletal component, that is the bone. For molar intrusion, it is best to place these intrusion appliances or the TAD appliances both on the buccal shelves and the palatal shelves, so that the molar should move bodily and it should be intruded bodily. What happen is the relapse that is following the molar intrusion is maximum during the first year after correction. Therefore it should be retained or by active retention. Now, talking till now, we have discussed the intrusion of molars, the correction of anterior open bite by the intrusion of molars, in which we discussed that it may be done by the help of a high pull head gear. It may be done by the help of fixed appliances, buccal capping or splints on the posterior teeth, by the help of repelling magnets, or by the help of TADs. In TADs, I talked about that the more intrusion can be achieved with the help of TADs as compared to any other appliances. Now, in which cases we'll be going for extrusion of incisors for the correction of anterior open bite? There are certain cases in which the incisors can be extruded to correct the anterior open bite, but usually incisor extrusion is not considered very favorable, and it is not advisable. Rather, in molar intrusion is more advisable, because it is more prone to relapse. Okay. Now, there are certain circumstances in which incisor extrusions may be done in cases for the correction of anterior open bite. Before discussing those cases, I like to show you a picture. Here we can see that when the patient is smiling, what we can observe? We can observe an anterior open bite, and we can also see that the incisal show is decreased. Even not half of the incisor is not showing when the patient is smiling completely, which means that the incisors should be extruded to make a consonant smile arc and to make an ideal smile. So the cases in which there is a non-consonant smile arc, decreased display of incisors, and there is anterior open bite. In those cases, extrusion of the incisors is the option that has to be considered. So, along with this, there are certain non-intrinsic extrusion forces that has to be removed. For example, if the patient is having any digit sucking habit, and because of those that digit sucking habit, there's infra eruption of the incisors. In those cases, we let the incisors extrude to get a proper occlusal contact. For example, those cases there were digit sucking habits and the incisors are not fully extruded. The trauma with intrusion to incisors. So secondly, when there is any trauma and that is leading to the intrusion of the incisors, those incisors should be brought back to their normal position through extrusion. That is the case in which the extrusion of incisors may be considered. Non-consonant smile arc that I have discussed already, or the decreased upper incisal display at rest or on smile. Therefore, these are the factors in which extrusion of the incisors may be considered. Otherwise, what is a more favorable option? Otherwise, we are going for the intrusion of the molars. So, I'll be discussing these conditions again. Non-intrinsic extrusion force that has been removed, digit sucking habits, trauma with intrusion to the incisors, non-consonant smile arc, and the decreased upper incisal display at rest or on smile. These are the various factors in which we may consider the extrusion of incisors. Here we can see that for the extrusion of incisors, they have given the cross elastics, the box elastics. What they will cause is, they will cause the vertical eruption or the extrusion of the incisors. See here and here, these are the box elastics. So box elastics are usually anterior box elastics because the shape of these elastics just like a box. So these box elastics are usually given for the extrusion of incisors. And here we can see the extrusion arches. These are the extrusion arches. All you need to know is the name. As we can see here, this arch is lying below the bracket. Therefore, when the bracket will be attached, the incisors will be extruded. So extrusion can be done either with the help of box elastics or with the help of extrusion arches. There's a video in which the box elastics and how they work will be seeing it. So the box elastics are placed, they provide the extrusive forces to the incisors, and the anterior bite is closed with the help of incisor extrusion. Now, the last modality of treatment which we are going to talk about now is the multi-loop edgewise archwise technique, that is Meow technique. So, as we discussed in orthodontic management, it can be by the habit breaking appliances. It can either be because of the intrusion mechanics in which the intrusion of the molars are planned. It can be either because of the extrusion mechanics in which the extrusion of the incisors are planned, and the multi-loop edgewise archway technique. It is also known as a Meow technique. In this technique, multiple bends and multiple loops are fabricated in the arch, as can be seen here. Multiple loops are fabricated in the arch, both upper and the lower arches. Okay, it is also known as Kim mechanics, or it is also known as continuous rocking horse archwire. Kim, K-I-M. So if somebody asks you about Meow, it is the same as Kim, it is the same as rocking horse mechanics, because it is having so many loops in the archwire. So what basically the Meow technique does is, what it causes is, it tips the molar distally. The molars are tipped distally. Okay, so the distal tip of the molar, it causes the reduction of the vertical dimension. When the vertical dimension reduces, it causes the closing of the open bite. So now we are seeing we are seeing multiple loops over here. But what else we are seeing? We are also seeing some vertical elastics. So what is the mode of action of chem mechanics. It uses multiple loops in the arch wire, and it is using vertical elastics as well. So these multiple loops are causing the distal tipping of the molars, that is reducing the vertical dimension of the posterior teeth, and the vertical elastics, they are preventing the incisors from intruding when the posterior teeth are coming together. So this is basically the mode of action of chem mechanics. Let me make it simpler for you guys. In multi-loop edgewise archway technique, if somebody asks you, multiple loops are given in upper and lower arch. These are boot loops. What these loops does is they cause the uprightening of the posterior teeth, which decreases the vertical dimension of the posterior face, and definitely it brings the anterior teeth close together. The vertical elastics are also used for the correction of the anterior bite. Therefore, in chem mechanics, the posterior teeth are uprighted and the anterior vertical elastics are used. Now, how can we correct an anterior open bite in cases of bimaxillary proclination? So as we talked about the bimaxillary proclination, in cases with bimaxillary proclination and crowding, the relief of crowding and retraction of the incisors. See, here we are retracting the incisors. It will cause the closing of the anterior open bite. Okay, and the stability which is achieved in cases of retraction and bimaxillary proclination, it is maximum in those cases where the lip competency is achieved after the correction. Therefore, retraction of incisors in case of bimaxillary proclination causing an anterior open bite can cause the correction of anterior open bite, and the stability depends upon the competency of lips at the end of the treatment. Here we can see that the inclination of incisor is more, and there is an anterior open bite, lack of vertical overlap. So when these incisors are retracted, we can see a vertical overlap here. Therefore, retracting the incisors leads to correction of anterior open bite, and the stability is dependent upon the competency of the lips at the end of the treatment. Now here we can see that the molar mesialization, the more mesial the contact will be, the more upward and forward rotation of the mandible, and hence it will lead to the correction of the anterior open bite. Therefore, till now we have discussed a lot of treatment modalities that comes under the orthodontic correction, in which we discussed that when we talked about the orthodontic correction, we can either use habit breaking appliances, we can either go for intrusion of molars or extrusion of incisors, or we can be going for the multi-loop wires. We can in cases of bimaxillary proclination, we can retract the incisors to close the anterior open bite, or we can mesialize the molars to close the anterior open bite. Now moving towards the third modality of management of anterior open bite. Why I'm saying it third? Because there are basically three major modalities on the basis of which we can be correcting the anterior open bite. Number one, we said that either we are going to accept it, and there were three cases in which we were accepting it: the milder cases, the very severe cases, and the cases with soft tissue discrepancy. Then we said the cases which comes in mild to moderate category but can be treated orthodontically and having a soft tissue environment that is favorable and the growth that is favorable. In those cases, we suggested that we may be going for orthodontic treatment modalities. Now the cases in which there is a severe skeletal problem, or where the dental compensations will not give aesthetic or the stable results, will be going for the surgical management of open bite. So what are the cases will be doing surgically? Number one, the growth the problem is of severe nature, or it cannot be giving us aesthetic or stable results with dental compensations only. So in those cases, we'll be going for the surgical management, and usually these options are considered once growth has slowed to adult levels. Okay, so in these cases we'll be going for orthognathic surgery. For example, a patient presents to us with a gummy smile and an anterior open bite, and it's an adult, so it's the best case that can be managed surgically. So anterior open bite which is associated with a gummy smile, always remember, anterior open bite that is associated with a gummy smile and a long face, so that's the best time when we are going to plan the surgery. And the surgery that is most stable in case of anterior open bite is the maxillary upward surgery. That is, the maxilla posterior teeth, they are moved up vertically, which allows the mandible to auto rotate and close the anterior open bite. Therefore, orthognathic surgery is advised in adult patients with severe open bite and anesthetic facial proportions. As we can see here, there is increased anterior open bite and downward placement of the maxilla. This is the surgical line of cut of orthognathic surgery, that is Leeford 1 osteotomy. A vertical part is removed from the maxilla. Maxilla is vertically upward placed, which cause the auto correction of mandible in the forward direction and closure of the anterior open bite. Here we can see that the patient is having an anterior open bite and the maxilla is tilted downwards. So what they are going to perform is an orthognathic surgery. Therefore, we have discussed the surgical management is done in cases which are having a highest degree of severity and they cannot be done with orthodontic correction. In those cases, we are going for the surgical correction. And usually the maxillary upward surgeries are preferred and they are more stable, which cause the mandible to auto-rotate and leads to the correction of anterior open bite. Now I'll be discussing the relapse of anterior open bite. When we talk about the relapse, it is very difficult to basically ascertain the patient that the relapse will not happen, because the relapse tendency in cases of anterior open bite is very high, and we are never sure that either it is because of the endogenous tongue thrust or it is because of the dental or the skeletal problems. Although the endogenous tongue thrust is very rare, but it is still wise that you be on the side of caution and warn the patient about relapse in cases of anterior open bite. Therefore, various studies in which one study having a 10-year follow-up showed that there are 35% chances of relapse in patients up to 3 millimeters. Therefore, a relapse should also always be warned in patient of anterior open bite. Now, talking about the stability of the anterior open bite, the long-term stability of the anterior open bite, it is always greater in patients who are treated with extraction as compared to the patient who are treated without extraction. Now, among the extraction groups, what is said is that 74% of the patients, they have had a stable open bite correction after 8 years, which means that stability is also dependent on extraction in cases of anterior open bite. And when we talked about the orthognathic surgery, then it is very effective method of management of anterior open bite in cases of severe open bites, and in cases where dental compensations will not be ample or enough for the correction of the anterior open bite. So, when we talk about relapse, we said that the tendency of relapse in cases of anterior open bite is great, is very much. Therefore, it should be also it should always be considered and should always be told to the patients that there is a high chance of relapse. and the cases in which there is extraction done in order to correct the anterior open bite, they are more stable as compared to the non-extraction cases. And orthogenetic surgeries, they are very stable in case of severe anterior open bites, particularly the superior repositioning of maxilla with Lefort 1 osteotomy. Now, talking about the retention, as we said, the relapse tendency is great in cases of anterior open bite. Therefore, retention protocol should be very and should be given importance. Therefore, there's a very important component of anterior open bite, that is active retention, which means that the same appliances should either be used for the retention. For example, in cases when we are using TADs, they should be the retainers should be incorporating the TADs. For the intrusion, they should be providing the active forces even after the correction of the anterior open bite. Therefore, that will help for the to retain the results for the retention. Or the headgear can be used as an active retainer. The TADs can be used as an active retainers, or the positioners can be given. Various myofunctional appliances can be given as active retainers, and the masticatory muscle exercises, they should also be told about to the patient. So they should be having some masticatory muscle exercises as well if they do not want a relapse. So till now, I just want to say is that the relapse tendency is high, therefore retention should be considered as a priority. We are going to give active retention that can be given by headgear itself, or by TADs, or by myofunctional appliances. There are various ways in which we can retain the appliances. Now we will be discussing these few cases with you in the treatment planning session and the question answer session. Till now, I'll be just concluding and giving a brief overview of the topic. So we have discussed in open bite and anterior open bite and posterior open bite, and we said that there are multiple etiological factors that are contributing towards the open bite. For anterior open bite, the etiological factors are different as compared to the posterior open bite. In the anterior open bite, we talked about the trauma, and then habits and skeletal components and the dental component, and so on and so forth. When we talked about the posterior open bite, we talked about the components that are involved for the posterior open bite. For example, the early extractions and the ankylosis of the posterior molars, and certain mechanical failure and the primary failure of eruption and condylar hyperplasia or hypertrophy. Then we talked about the various types of open bite on the basis of the skeletal grounds and the dental grounds. In skeletal, we say that the patient will present with a long face. In dental, we say that the patient will present with a normal face. In skeletal, we say that the severity will be more. In dental, we said that it will just be of dental in origin because of supra-eruption, of molars, or infra-eruption of incisors, or both, and it will not be that complex in nature. Then we talked about the intraoral and the extraoral features, and then we moved towards the management, in which we said that there are major three protocols of management, in which either we are going to accept it, or we are going to correct it orthodontically, or we are going to correct it surgically. In which acceptance we said either it is of severity, or the soft tissue environment is not favorable, or in very mild cases. When we talked about the orthodontic correction, we said that we'll be correcting it orthodontically in cases with habit breaking appliances, or we'll be doing it either with the extrusion of molars or intrusion of molars, or the extrusion of incisors, depending upon the smile arc, depending upon the smile consonants, so on and so forth. Then we discussed about the surgical management, in which we said that severe cases will be dealt with in the surgery, or the cases in which there'll be anesthetic results with the dental compensations. And then I talked about the relapse and retention of the open bite, in which I said that the relapse of open bite is very much up to 35%. Therefore, an active retention is always suggested. And in cases of active retention, either TADs can be used as an active TADs that are placed for intrusion can be used as an active retainer or headgear, or so on and so forth. And this is all for today, and then we'll be going to discuss the management and the treatment planning in the coming section. Stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.